He now is on the road. He is, on that yellow brick road to his generational wealth. And we've seen it time and time again. And most of the kids that come through the seminar are making money, not internet money. They're making bricks, what used to be called bricks and mortar money, okay? Because although we have kids that are very successful doing e-commerce, I'm not taking that away from them. But see, he can sell his business someday. The e-commerce guys almost always can't sell their business. One, because as I mentioned a couple of days ago, they're associated with the brand, their personal name, and or they're not given any value to in multiples. E-commerce businesses are hard. He's got a great model, and it's not dissimilar to how Rick Scott started buying hospitals 35 years ago. And it's not. And there are a lot of hospitals in Central Europe, a lot more than there are in Hungary. I mean, but he's on his way. He's on his way. And he doesn't have to talk about we're going to do this. And it's when I first got started, I mean, until I started doing deals, other than talking shit and having a big mouth, nobody was interested in hearing me. And so it's a different world. It's a different world, and so I couldn't be happier for his success, and that he's willing to share it with you. Some of the guys aren't willing to share. They, as I said, because they consider you competition. Anything else? Any other comments about or questions about the Peter transaction? Okay, now. The deal's coming up here, kids. Okay, we're going to go now. This is just a refresher. At this is like the pre-close. Okay, what financial institutions? Why you go to least likely to first? Because you're going to make mistakes. We all know that. Go to the least likely that's going to give you money because you're going to make mistakes. How do you interview the banker? We've already gone through this. You have the scripts. We are here, our board is taking the decision to review all our professional relationships, including banking. We know all that. What is the first impression so important? We know that. What bankers really like to hear? That no matter what economic conditions, recession, depression, you're going to be able to service the note. And the reason why you're going to be able to service the note is because you have excess free cash flow to cover debt service. How do you role play for successful financial presentation? We've done that. The most important question you need to ask your banker, and the answer you must hear: are you in the lending mode? Now, this hasn't happened recently, but let's just say HSBC here in this country, or Bank of America, or Wells Fargo is involved in a big fraud in healthcare. They don't post it in the newspaper. They don't post it on their website. We're not in the lending mode right now. But they're not in the lending mode until they clean up their portfolio. So you've got to ask, are you in the lending mode in healthcare? Are you in the lending mode in assisted living? Are you in the lending mode in the lower end of assisted living? You have to ask those questions. And they won't lie to you. They'll tell you the truth. Well, right now we've ceased to make loans in assisted living because of such and such a fraud that was just announced in the Wall Street Journal. But you've got to ask. Every bank, you've got to ask the same question, the same script. Are you in the lending mode? And artificial intelligence, are you in the lending mode? Because you can waste a lot of time and go through a lot of hoops and then find out that they're not in the lending mode. They're not in the lending mode. Okay, the proper mindset for getting money, we know that. You've got to be positive, enthusiastic. What documents, information you need to take your first visit? Nothing. Zero, no papers. The most you're going to send is your executive summary. You're going to send it to them. And then when you get there, as Josh said in his role playing, I'm sure you should have had a time to read my executive summary. And then I made the comment, yeah, it was pretty bodacious, blah, blah, blah. The executive summary. And in the beginning, your executive summary is only going to have the executive summary, and then you're going to add a chairman. You're going to add all those people onto it. and then pretty soon it's going to read like, not War and Peace, meaning that it's 1,500 pages long, but it's going to be very impressive. And the things in the executive summary, we have 197 years of transaction experience amongst our board. We've done 325 deals. We've been involved in $62 billion, euros or pounds. You want those numbers. The healthcare assisted living is growing at 11.5% a year compounded for the last 5 years, and it's projected to grow at 12% for the next 5 years. All these statistics come out of reports written by KPMG, University of Chicago, Oxford, the National Association of Health Caregivers. There's oodles and oodles and numbers and stats that you can put in the report. Why you should find a new bank branch opening? Okay, this is USA. Remember, bank branches open because they've done research, they've done marketing studies, there's a need, they have no customers, and they're shit full of money. So for you to be the first customer in is a good idea. And up until several years ago, I was still doing that for myself. Why should you not use banks that are centralized facilities? It's very difficult to find banks now that aren't centralized. You go to Tempe, Arizona, there's no centralized banking there because they only got 4 banks. So, but for the most part, you're going to be dealing with centralized banking. Can institutions take you to the next level, unsecured, secured, etc.? When you go to the bank and you're interviewing the bank, all the information about their financials is online. Is this a $2 million bank, a $20 million bank, a $200 million bank, or a $2 billion bank? And when you're talking to initially the business development person that you're going to talk to before he turns you over to a credit person, you're going to want to know, and it's in the scripts, what's the banking limit, lending limit, what are the individual lending limits of the credit officers, et cetera, et cetera. But you want a bank that can take you to the next level. Now, you're my banker at Barclays, okay? You move to another bank. If you're making a lateral move, I go with you because I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel. But for whatever reason you're making a down move to a smaller bank, I stay with the bank. Most bankers move around like underwear off hookers. I mean, they change jobs all the time. And when they change banks, they are going to promise the new bank that you're taking your customers with you. You can't do that legally, but customers do follow their bankers. And so it's a lot easier just to follow them if it's a lateral move. If it's a down move, if he's getting fired for something, he's going to go to work for some little podunk bank, then you stay at the bank. You don't move. Why should you change? Oh, no, I just said that. Why most lending is ultimately done on relationships. We know that. How to effectively position yourself. We know that. The difference between asset lenders and cash flow lenders. We are a cash flow model. Cash flow model, meaning cash flow that's derived from the asset producing either service or product. Most banks want at least 3 forms of repayment. They want the cash flow from the deal. They want the assets that produce the cash flow, and they want you. You don't want you. You want them to stick for the collateral of the cash flow that comes off the deal and the assets that are associated with that cash flow.
Isn't that another reason why we want those large margins of 20, 30%?
Correct. Of course they are. Of course they are. But I mean, and although almost all of you will come to either whether you're going to guarantee it or not guarantee it. And in the SBA in America, the personal guarantee is mandatory because they want to see you have skin in the game. Okay. Intra and interstate, this is in the United States. Some banks have state charters for just Alabama, Mississippi, Texas. Intra as opposed to inter, meaning you have a U.S.-wide. In this country, banks in the UK can lend in France, can lend, but it's normally they don't. So you almost always, your first few deals are going to be banks situated in the geographic location where the asset is that you're purchasing. How to make a bank get excited? Well, you make them get excited because of your dream team, the transaction experience, etc. what you should never say to the banker and what you should always say to the banker. You never say to the banker, and sometimes they'll slip it to you kind of offhanded. Well, there must be some way that this deal doesn't work. How is it? Oh, no, excuse me, sir. There's no way this debt cannot be serviced. You never, and they ask you the questions sometimes in a very innocuous way, seeing if they can get an answer out of you that's negative. So be aware of that and practice it when you're doing your speeches. Okay. How to posture yourself so you're not wasting time. You're asking for decision makers. Once you get past the business development person at the bank, you want to sit with credit officers, people that can say yes or no to the loan. Yes or no. And you can ask them, are you part of the credit procedure? If you remember with the questions that Josh Kim asked me the other day, and I cut him short and I said, no, I'm the final decision maker. You want to talk to the decision makers. You want to talk to decision makers. Why shouldn't you give a business plan? Because once you give them a business plan, it's in fucking concrete. You will be forced to perform against that business plan. And I've never seen in 50 years a business plan fail on paper. So you're going to put optimistic numbers in there because you want to get them to approve your loan. Those optimistic numbers are normally not achievable. So why would you give them numbers to measure your performance against that you know when you gave them the numbers they're not achievable? You don't. So we don't give business plans. Okay, why should you, we know that. Why you don't necessarily, I told you that. How to make your business plan. Okay, now, some of you won't be able to help yourself. And he's going to put it in the weekly report. My board says we need a business plan. The bank says we need a business plan. The seller wants to see a business plan because he's going to give us a seller's note. The seller wants to see a business plan because he's going to get part of the holding company. You come up with all kinds of bullshit reasons why a business plan. So this is what you do if push comes to shove. One, you ask Mr. Banker, you realize business plans don't fail on paper, and he'll giggle and you'll giggle, la ha ha. Why don't you redact, in other words, blacken out the names. Why don't you give me the last couple of deals that the bank approved with all the confidential information taken out, and so I'll structure a business plan that we both know that the bank will approve. Half the time the bank will just say fuck off. The other half of the time they'll give you the business plan and they will not take the guy's confidential information out. And then you can call the guy or the gal or the company and find out what it's really like to deal with a bank. That's one way. Second way, you can for $50, $100 get kids in the Philippines, Belarus, India to write your business plan. I know Filipinos that write PhD dissertations for kids at Oxford. PhD dissertations for kids at Oxford for $350. But that's, if push came to shove. How do you put pizzazz in your business plan? Well, you ask them if they show you the business plan, you can see what they like to see. Some people like pie charts. Some people like graphs. If you want a red dress, you stand under a red light. Remember, if you want a blue dress, you stand under a blue light. Yes.
Peña, what do you show them? What numbers do you show them? Do you show them what the company?
Smoke. That's why they're not worth a shit. It's a lie. A business plan at best is a lie. At worst, it's fraud. Why don't business plans fail on paper? Because you put all the positive bullshit in there. It's a joke.
But when you tell them, hey, this business is cash flow, do you show them something?
No, you don't show them shit. Remember, you're warming up the bank first. You're asking for parameters. What are the lending parameters? 3 to 5 times EBITDA. Thank you very much. I'll be back when I have a deal. You may have 6 deals in your pocket. I'll be back, and you ask bank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 12, what the lending parameters. And let's say the spread of lending parameters on the low side is 2 to 4 times EBITDA. On the high side is 4 to 7 times EBITDA. So you know that you can finance 2 to 7 times EBITDA. But you're not showing him a deal. You're interviewing the bank. He's not interviewing you. Why are 75% of all bank loans made the last 90 days of the year? Because they want to get a Christmas bonus.
So I've got a question
Sure.
on the multiplier.
I'm listening.
Is it just a choice of whether you want to take the higher end or the lower end so you can have equity versus...
No. Because you want to be able to tell the seller with your hand on your heart, when you tell him 3 to 7 or 3 to 6, he will lock in on 6.
Right.
You're locking in on 3 times EBITDA. When you go in to do your due diligence, he's got 6 in his mind, and he's already got the multiple of how much money he's going to get. And by the time you get in ripping his fucking financials apart and ripping his rectum out of him and shoving it down his throat, he's down to 3.8 times EBITDA. When you take all the add backs. But it sucks him into the vortex.
Right.
Sweetheart, I won't come in your mouth. Let's go up to my room, my hotel room, It's no different, but you guys, nobody gets laid anymore, so you don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. That's a fucking sad commentary.
I was just thinking that if you take a higher, you tell them you're going to pay them 3.6.
No, you tell them between 3 and 6 times EBITDA.
Right, but at the end, when it all works out, you get them below that.
But it's subject to due diligence and finance. There's not, one seller in 100 is going to tell you the truth what his business is really doing. 1 in 100. Maybe not even that. Maybe 1 in 1,000,000 will the numbers really be what the business is doing. So you can't base anything until everything has got to be subject to due diligence and finance. All your offers are subject to due diligence and finance. They know they're lying to you. The business broker knows he's lying to you. I think it's part of the business broker credo to lie. Because he's getting paid a percentage of whatever he can find somebody stupid enough to pay. Between 3 and 10% business brokers get. 3% on the multi-billion-dollar deals, 10% on the small deals. By definition. But you want them to think the multiple's high enough to let you pull their dress up over their head and pull their panties down. I just had a visual about that. Pull your pants. Okay, you sell your ideas with enthusiasm. How to prepare your presentation so your investor or banker will take you seriously. Practice. And before you go to see the banker, wipe your hands dry. And I used to, when I was doing those 6, 7, 8 meetings a day, I'd get out before I walk in the door, I'd slap myself in the face. You know how you see the fighters get the blood into their thighs and the big muscles? That's what I used to do. And I used to jump up and down a little and go in there, like I meant it. I used to say, my name's Peña, Dan Peña, like Bond, James Bond. My name's Peña, Dan Peña. And don't shake hands like a fucking mealy mouth. Most of you shake hands like a cunt. The women, I want this to be on film. Keep filming this. In 1986, the average handshake of a woman, pound per square inch, was 96 pounds. In 2016, the average handshake pound per square inch for a woman is 106. So it's gone from 96 to 106. In 1986, the average pound per square inch from a man's handshake was 118, which has now gone down to 96. In 30 years, women's handshakes are up about 10% in pound per square inch, and men's are down 20%. Why is that? Yes, because you're cunts. They were born by cunts, and you should have rolled down your fucking mama's fat fucking thigh. Bye-bye. Talk to you later.